Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to begin working on our next big project in this class. We're going to create an idle game, a clicker game. This is going to be a very simple game. It's going to basically have two buttons. One button is going to generate a resource. The other button is going to allow us to buy an automatic generator that will generate resources over time. Okay. So I think the best way to start this project is to think about what are we going to want multiples of. Like, our game is going to be simple. It's only going to have two buttons, but most of your idle games have more than one button. They have more than two buttons. They have 3 or 7 or 12 or 100 buttons, right? There's buttons all over the place. So I think the best place for us to start is to create a draw button function that we can use to create as many buttons as we want in any place on our screen, of any color, with any kind of text inside. Basically create a function that will allow us to make any button we want just by calling that function. So we'll do that in this video. Then in the next video we will use that same, or we'll jump off from there, and we'll actually use this idea to create an idle game. All right, so that's enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get started with it. Okay, so a couple things we got to do right at the top. We have to import turtle. Then let's set up our screen. We'll call it s equals turtle.screen. Let's set the background color. I'm going to make mine, I don't know, light blue. Sounds good to me. A nice light blue screen. And let's make it 600 by 400. That should be a pretty decent size. Let's go ahead and run it and see what that looks like. Okay, that's not bad. 600 by 400. We're going to have a button here in the middle, a button down here, and we'll have some text up here telling us our score. Very simple. Okay, so let's set up that score display real quick. Let's make that happen. So we're going to do this in two phases. We're going to have it, we'll set up the score display, and then we'll have a function that we can call that will update our score whenever we need it to, because we're going to want to update our score whenever we buy a new, or whenever we click the button, and whenever we do all kinds of things. So we're going to do this in two phases. So first, let's set up our score display. We're actually going to need a variable to handle our score. So let's create a variable section, and let's create a score variable, and we'll set it equal to 0. So that way, actually, let's set it equal to 100, just for testing purposes to begin with. Okay, so let's set up a new score display. We'll call it SD for score display, equals turtle.turtle. Then SD.hide turtle to get rid of it. SD.up. SD.goTo, we'll go to 0 on the X and 120 on the Y. Okay. Then we're going to create a function called update score. Okay. And inside the update score, let's just write sd.write. Now this is going to be a formatted output. What a formatted output does is it will allow you to put variables in the middle of your text string. So to indicate it as a formatted output, we'll use the lowercase f, and then we'll put in our quotes. That will allow us to do something like this: score, and then inside these French brackets we can write score, meaning score colon space and then whatever's stored in the score variable. That's going to be the text of our label. Let's align it to the center. Oh, I need quotes around that. I knew it looked weird. And we'll give it a pretty standard font. Arial, we'll say 24 bold. Why not? Okay, so we have our update score method or function. Let's go ahead and call it at the top of our program. Let's run this and see if our score looks like it should. Score 100. Good. And I can change this variable all I want. Let's say 50, and it should update score 50. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to set it to 0 to begin with because we want it to start at 0 at the beginning. Okay, so there we go. We have our score display working. Now, let's go ahead and create a function that will allow us to make as many buttons as we want just by calling the function. So we're going to create a function called draw button. Okay. Now draw button is going to be able to allow us to draw any kind of button we want of any size with any text on the inside, put it anywhere we want on the screen. And I'll explain how we're going to do this as we're building it. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build out just a regular button, and then we'll think about what are the things that may change if we wanted to create a different button. And then we'll pass those in as arguments. So let's go ahead and just draw a regular button first. Okay. So we're going to create a new button or a new turtle. We'll call it B for button. Turtle dot turtle. Let's hide the turtle. Let's set the speed to 0. Let's pick up the pen. Let's go to, for this one, let's put it at -50 and -100. Yeah, we'll put it at -50, -100. Okay. Let's change the color to color. Oh, nope. That's for next. That's for later. Let's change the color to, what do I want the first button to be? Let's change it to red. Okay. Color to red. Let's put our pen down. And let's begin our fill. Okay. Now we'll create a loop to create our rectangle. Let's say b dot forward, and we'll go forward by, I don't know, 100. B dot right, 90. B dot forward, let's say 50. B dot right. And then, oh, right 90. Then let's end our fill. B dot end fill. Okay. So that's the button itself. Now we want to draw the text. So we're going to create a new, let's call it T equals turtle dot turtle. T for text. We'll say T dot hide turtle. T dot up to move it or to pick up the pen. T dot go to. Let's see. We want it to be. We want it to go to. Let's try. Oh, hold on. So we're taking a negative. So there should be. Let's do -25. Sure. By negative. 25. Yeah, let's try that. It's probably not going to be where we want it, but we're going to make it easier to figure this out in just a moment. T.color, we'll say white. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. T.right. Click me. Align equals center. Font equals Arial. 14 points and bold. Okay, so now we have this draw button function. It takes up a lot of space. It's 20 lines of code to just draw one button, right? So we probably don't want to have to repeat this over and over again. First, let's test to see if our draw button function even works before we move on. So let me go ahead and run it. And it looks like, oh, see, the label's way out of where it's supposed to be. We'll fix that in a second. Okay, so now we have a button. The problem is, if we wanted to create another button, we could copy and paste all of this and then create a draw button to function, which does exactly the same thing, but only changes a couple of numbers. So one of the beauty about functions is we can pass in arguments to change or modify that function whenever we called it. So let's think about some of the things that we might want to change for the next button. Well, we definitely are going to want to change it so we can put it in a different place. So we want the X value of where we're going to start placing the button and the Y value of where we're going to start placing the button. So up here we can say, I want to pass in an X and a Y. So we can replace these numbers with X and Y. So whatever we pass in will get replaced here. Okay. What else? Well, we probably want to be able to change the color as well. So let's pass in color as a as an argument. So instead of hard coding in the color, we pass in the color. So now we can put a button wherever we want that has the same color, right? We also probably want to change how wide and how tall the button is. That might be something we want to change. So let's pass in width and height. And instead of using hard numbers here, we can just say width, height. Okay, perfect. Let's see, what else? What else? Ooh, we probably want to change what the text is that's on the button. Okay, so we can say text and replace this with text. Oh, and you know what? We're having issues here with this go to. So what we could do is we could just say, instead of trying to figure out the exact number, what we could do is we could say, we're going to go to our X and our Y. So that way it puts the text where our button starts from. Now we're probably going to want to offset that a little bit, but it's okay. We can do that in a minute. Let's test it out first to see if it's going to work. Now the problem is we've just added a bunch of new arguments into this function, and if we were to run the draw button function or try to run this code, the draw button function is going to get mad because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that it's looking for, and we're not passing anything into it. So that's what this error is telling us here. It says draw button is missing 6 required positional arguments: X, Y, color, width, height, and text. So we need to go in here whenever we call this function. We need to go in here and actually pass in the values. So the first thing is our X. We'll say -100. The second thing is our Y, which is, oh no, -100 was not the X. I think it was -50. The Y is -100. Okay. The next thing we want is the color. It's going to be red. The next thing we want is the width, 100. The height is going to be 50. And the text is going to be click me. Okay. So now that we've passed in all the arguments, it should create a button with these specific parameters. There we go. And now click me is not where we want it to be. So let's create those offsets real quick. But now that we kind of can see where it is, I think what I want to do is I want it to start there, but I want it to do, let's go halfway. So let's say for our text, go to x plus width divided by 2. So width divided by 2 will be halfway. So it'll start there and then go halfway across. And we'll say y plus height divided by 2. So we're using those variables again. Let's run it again and see what, oh. Maybe it should be height minus. Yeah, let's do y minus height divided by 2. There we go. Now, I could probably make that look a little bit nicer, but at least it looks pretty much how we want it to look, right? Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now that we have this function, anytime we want to write another button, all we have to do is call that function again, and we can just change the parameters. So I want it to go to negative 50, but I don't want it to go to negative 100. Let's set it to 0 on the y, so it's above the other button. Let's, instead of red, let's say it's blue. We'll keep the height and the width the same, but here we will say auto 10. This is going to be our generator that's going to generate automatically, or it's going to automatically generate points. There we go. See? We can create buttons all day long. We can even make another one and make that, instead of, let's do it at, I don't know, 25, and make this one orange. And so we'll say this one is a dummy button that doesn't do anything. Oh no, I put it in the wrong place. It's supposed to go, I wanted it to go up. Oh well, easy enough to fix. We can put that back to negative 50, so it's in line, and we'll put that up to, let's say, let's put it up to 50 on the y. That's kind of where I wanted to go, maybe 75. I don't know. I'm just kind of goofing at this point. Let's say 100. Why not? There we go. See what I mean? We can make buttons all day long now. We can make an entire grid of buttons, a whole a cavalcade of buttons, all kinds of buttons all day long, because we're using the power of functions and the power of arguments, positional arguments, to modify those buttons and make small changes to them. Okay? So I'm going to get rid of this dummy button. We only really need these two. All right, in the next video, we're going to take what we have here and we're actually going to turn this into a fully functional idle game. All right? Whew, that was a lot. All right, thanks for paying attention. I'll see you next time.